Let's jump right into this explainer. Today, we're unpacking a massive shift in the Indian taxation landscape, the crucial powers granted to income tax authorities under the new Income Tax Act 2025. Specifically, we're zooming in on Chapter 14-B, which covers Sections 246 to 261. If you're a chartered accountant, a tax professional, or a business owner, getting a firm grip on these provisions is absolutely critical for the upcoming transition.
So picture this. It's May 2026. You, or maybe your client, suddenly get a summons from the Income Tax Department demanding your financial records and books of account. The old physical tax office? Well, that's practically ancient history now. Everything is moving digitally. Do you know exactly how the rules of engagement have changed? How do you actually respond? And honestly, which specific legal provisions even govern this interaction now?
To figure all of that out, we're going to follow a quick roadmap. First, an introduction to the new IT powers, then decoding Section 246, followed by faceless data collection. After that, we'll walk through a practical tax scenario, tackle compliance and common issues, and wrap it all up with a summary of key takeaways.
Okay, starting off with Section 1, an introduction to IT powers and an overview of Chapter 14-B. Now, the whole point of Chapter 14-B is to draw very clear legal boundaries around what tax officers can and cannot do. But here's the real game changer. According to the stated goals of the new Act, these provisions are specifically engineered to make proceedings far more efficient, transparent, and accountable. We're talking about a massive paradigm shift that heavily prioritizes digital interactions over physical ones.
Moving right along to Section 2, let's decode Section 246, which deals with discovery, evidence, and civil court powers.
For all of you transitioning between the old and new acts, here is the big mapping you need to know. The civil court powers you used to know inside out as Section 131 of the 1961 Act, they've been practically rehoused right here under Section 246 of the 2025 Act. The number on the door has changed for sure, but the legal muscle inside remains just as formidable.
Under Section 246, authorities like your assessing officer, joint commissioner, or commissioner appeals still wield the exact same powers vested in a court under the Code of Civil Procedure 1908. That means they can absolutely force the discovery and inspection of evidence, they can compel anyone to show up to a proceeding, demand the production of your books of account, and issue commissions. So the core investigative authority is functionally intact.
Next up is Section 3, Faceless Data Collection, looking at Section 260 and the new IT Rules 2026 forms.
You might be thinking, okay, if the powers are basically the same, what's actually different? Well, enter Section 260. This introduces a completely structured scheme designed to wipe out direct, physical face-to-face interfaces between the tax authority and the assessee, as much as technologically possible. It's all about functional specialization now. So, when an officer calls for information under Sections 252 or 254, it's heavily pushed through a transparent digital-first pipeline.
Practically speaking, the new income tax rules of 2026 bring in specific forms to standardize the whole shebang. For example, if an authority needs to issue a search and seizure warrant under Section 247, they'll use Forms 82 and 83. But here is the one you'll probably encounter a lot. When you, the assessee, need to furnish information digitally under Section 254, you are now going to be using Form 87.
Let's make this concrete. With Section 4, a practical tax scenario showing Section 246 in action.
Let's map out exactly how this looks for a taxpayer or a CA handling a client's assessment. Step 1. The assessing officer needs to verify some expenses, so they initiate a proceeding. Step 2. Say goodbye to that old physical letter. Instead, you get a digital summons issued under Section 246 of the new Act. Step 3. You gather the requested books of account and evidence. Step 4. You definitely don't drive down to the tax office. You submit everything completely facelessly via the portal using that new Form 87. It's streamlined, it's trackable, and it's fully digital.
This brings us to Section 5, Compliance and Common Issues, specifically focusing on mitigating transition risks.
Look, understanding the law on paper is really only half the battle, right? A super common misunderstanding during a massive legislative transition like this is relying on legacy muscle memory. If you get a summons after April 1, 2026, and you casually reply citing the old Section 131 out of sheer habit, you are making a critical error.
Tax pros absolutely have to meticulously update their references.
The official transition FAQs make it super clear. Quoting old section numbers for post-April 2026 transactions will trigger immediate system-level validation errors on the portal. It'll just bounce. Always quote Section 246 for a summons and use Form 87. Also, maintain strict digital audit trails. But hey, here's some comfort. If a property was already attached or a valid notice was issued under the old act before April 2026, the savings clause under Section 536 keeps those actions legally valid.
Let's wrap this up with Section 6, a quick summary and our key takeaways for Chapter 14-B.
So, to bring it all together, the core powers of investigation, those civil court powers, are still incredibly strong. But the interface? Totally transformed. Section 246 is your new Section 131. The entire process is now governed by the FACES framework of Section 260, which means you need absolute precision with new compliance documents, especially Form 87. Always use the new statutory references to dodge those frustrating digital system rejections.
Thank you for watching. Please like, subscribe, and share.
Please note the legal disclaimer on screen. This video is for educational purposes only and does not constitute professional advice. Tax laws are subject to amendments. Please consult your professional advisor before taking any action. This is an AI-generated educational video. But before we leave, I want you to think about this. As the tax landscape goes entirely digital, will your future compliance strategy be your biggest asset or your greatest liability?